Welcome to this week's CybHER Conversation brought to you by Peraton. CybHER is a program out of Dakota State University in Madison, South Dakota that works to motivate, empower, and educate girls in cybersecurity. At any point during the program, you can ask a question via the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. For those of you who don't know it, my name is Arica Kulm. I am a CybHER leader at Dakota State, and today I will be introducing Dr. Arica Kulm. Dr. Arica Kulm is the Lead Digital Forensic Analyst in the DigForCE Lab at Dakota State University. DigForCE provides forensic expertise, conducts open source intelligent investigations, and training for law enforcement agencies in the state of South Dakota. Arica received her PhD in cyber defense from Dakota State University in December of 2020, has a master's degree in cyber defense from Dakota State University, a bachelor's degree from South Dakota State University, and holds several industry certifications. In her spare time, you can find her on the bike path or spending time with her 4 college-age kids.
Well, thank you, Alexis. That's pretty awesome to be introduced by my own daughter. I don't know that I need to say much now. You kind of took care of it all for me, but again, that's pretty awesome. So, and thank you for having me today. I appreciate it. Pam and Ashley, both of you. I really appreciate it. So my background in cyber is probably much shorter than most of the people that you have on here. I've only been in it for a few years. So like Alexis said, I got my bachelor's degree from South Dakota State many years ago. And coming out of college, I worked in the IT field doing hardware installations, software training and support, and did that for about 10 years before starting a family. And then after that, I stayed at home with my kids for a few years. And then as I went back into the workforce, worked part-time and then full-time, but not in the IT field. And I really missed there's something about working in IT that it's always changing. There's always something new, and it's always something you have to keep up on. So as the kids got into high school, Alexis had an interest in the field because I had an interest in it, and she had taken a cybersecurity class while she was in high school. And I don't know if she even knows this, but she's the reason that I got interested in this to begin with. So as she took that class, she was introduced to the Gen Cyber camps here at Dakota State. And she would come home in the summer after camp with all this cool stuff. I'm like, that is so interesting and so cool. But after the first year, I didn't think too much of it. I continued working the job I was working as, a job I liked okay. And I loved the people I worked with, but it was just that, it was a job. It wasn't a career. So, fast forward a few more years as my kids got closer to the end of high school, I had gone with my husband. I had actually surprised him with a trip to Washington, DC for his birthday. And we were walking around there, and I was looking at all of the buildings and thinking about all the cool things that go on there. And all the, the people that are there and the power that's there. And I thought, I need to do more than what I'm doing right now. So that was kind of the aha moment that I want a career. I don't want just a job to go to. I really want a career. So I started looking at Dakota State in the master's program. And before I even started, the forensics class caught my eye because it was something that was familiar. It's file structures, it's NTFS, it's that type of thing that I was familiar with, where a lot of the other stuff, it had been a while since I'd been in it. So it was new and it was different. So that originally piqued my interest. And also it just sounded interesting. You're looking for information, you're digging deep into a system to find what is in there. So then after starting the program, that by far was my favorite class. And through that class, I met Ashley and became even more interested. And while I was going through the program, people would often ask me, what do you want to do when you're done? What do you intend to do with this degree? And that made me super uncomfortable. And I didn't like being asked that question because I really didn't know. I knew I wanted to do something with forensics, but in our part of the country, that generally means law enforcement, which I had no experience with. and frankly, was way too old to start. So I didn't really know. I just kind of the two things that I really wanted in a job was I wanted it to be interesting and I wanted it to make an impact. So beyond that, I didn't really know. And as I was finishing the master's program, a couple of things happened that were good timing. Number one, the PhD in cyber defense was just being offered. And then also, like Alexis said, the DigForCE Lab was just getting started. So Ashley had approached me and said, "Hey, what do you think about doing a PhD?" And I'm like, "Sure, why not?" I've kind of learned that, if Ashley suggests something, I just do it because it's usually good advice. So started the PhD, and luckily the classes that I had just gotten done taking in the master's program all fit with the PhD. So what I had left was the research classes and a dissertation. I thought, I can do that, not that big a deal, right? Well, as anyone that's done a dissertation knows, it is kind of a big deal, but again, a couple years down the road, got through that. And also at the same time, as I said, the lab was just getting going. So I was lucky enough to be first a graduate assistant and then get hired full-time to work here in the lab, which is where I'm sitting today. And, we work with law enforcement throughout the state of South Dakota, both state and federal, and work on devices that are submitted as part of a criminal investigation. And we do, a wide variety of cases from drugs to fraud to homicide. So we've seen a wide variety of things that we've done here at the lab, and it meets the criteria of what I want to do. It's interesting, and I like to think it's impactful. I hope it is, and I can honestly say that I have a job that I love coming to every single day. So it's just fun. So I know that was super short, and I talk really fast when I get nervous. So I think I'd just rather answer questions than talk about myself. So does that work for you, Kanti?
Actually, Alexis is going to do the Q&A today.
Oh, awesome. Even better. Oh, one more thing I want to say. So with Alexis and having her taken the class, she followed me into, with my interest in IT, and then I followed her. And now we get to do this together, which is really super cool. And to be able to share the same interest and do the same thing and get to see her grow up and share some of the interests that I have is really pretty awesome.
Okay, so for the first question we have, what are some common types of devices that you examine and how do you examine them?
Oh, that's a great question. So the most common devices we get right now are phones. So, think about, go back even 10, 15 years, computers were probably the way most people got their information, right? They connected to the internet. Well, now we all walk around with a computer in our pocket. So we have a DCI special agent, Toby Russell, who works in the lab here with us. And we were actually just visiting yesterday. And Toby's comment was 80 to 90% of crimes that are committed today involve some type of digital evidence. So those are primarily phones. We also have computers, removable media like a flash drive or an SD card. And we do IoT devices. We had a GPS unit, and we can do all kinds of different things. Digital video recorders, we can do that as well. So.
Have you sometimes examined more unusual items?
Yeah, so the Garmin that we just had was a little more unusual for me. And what they would look at for something like that would be location data. And I had an officer ask me a week or so ago if we could do smart TVs. And I said, well, we haven't done one yet, but that's certainly something we could research, which is the great thing about being here at Dakota State and having this partnership is that we have students that if we have a device that we don't know what to do with, we wouldn't let them do research on evidence. but we have them do research to see what other agencies have done with a similar device so that we know then what to do with it.
Have you ever examined a Wi-Fi controlled sprinkler system?
We have not. No, not yet. Not yet. That would be my answer to most of those questions.
You are the first person to receive a PhD in cyber defense. How does that feel?
Pretty awesome, actually. Yeah, pretty amazing. I had the lucky timing that it was being offered right when I was finishing the master's program. So I was able to take a few classes that were able to fit right in with the program. So I kind of got a running start. And, 2020, as we all know with COVID, was an interesting year. But for me, working on a dissertation during that time was actually kind of an advantage because, we weren't traveling, we weren't leaving the house that much. So that was what my focus was. So I don't know if you call that a good thing about COVID, but that was something that was helpful for me.
What does a typical day in your career look like?
So a typical day, even today would be a typical day. I come in, see where we're at with our caseload, see what we're working on. We have probably almost every day we have devices that come into the lab. So they either come in by someone delivering them, a law enforcement person will bring them to the lab, or they come by FedEx or UPS. So we got a FedEx package today. So we'll take the package, we photograph it before we do anything with it, assign it a case number, and then we open it, photograph it again. Documenting is something that goes along with everything we do. We document everything we do with the device from the minute it gets here until the minute it leaves, so that we know what we did to it, so we can put that into our paperwork. Once we photograph it, then we figure out and so let's say it's a phone, what model number it is. Is it powered? Is it not powered? Is it connected to the internet? Is it in airplane mode? And again, we're documenting everything we do, photographing anything we do. The first thing we would do with the device, once we have all the documentation done, would be to extract the data from it if we can. We can't always, depending on the make and the model and the operating system. And then once that's done, then we would go through and analyze that data, and then write a really detailed report on what we find in there. We also have to make sure when we get the device that we have the proper documentation. So we have a submission form that we created, and then also we need a search warrant. We can't just search a device just because somebody wants it searched. We have to have proper legal authority to do that. And we read through and look to see what we're even looking for, and that fits the scope of the case. So, we're working on new cases, we're working on cases that we're already working on. So like today I come in, I have a case already pulled up that I've been working on the new devices that are coming in. And so we're kind of jumping around from case to case. We have a student employee that works here in the lab. So it's, having him do whatever work that needs to be done, whether it's entering cases or, supporting what he's researching and that type of thing. So there's a variety in what we do.
How long does it typically take to examine a cell phone?
Another great question. It depends on the cell phone. So make, model, operating system. Some cell phones we get might have 16 gigabyte of data on them. Some of the newer phones might have 256 gigabyte of data on them. So it really depends on how much data is on them and what we're able to get out of that device. So if we have a device that we're not able to get the data out of it, we can do an examination and have it done in a day or so, because we can't get any data. We still have to document all that and pull all that information together, write a report and give that out to the agency. But if we have a device that has, several gigabyte of data on it, it could take, a week and a half to look through all that data, mark it all down, write the report, and then get the report out. And, the reporting that we do we can have reports. I did a report a week or so ago that was upwards of 50 pages. So the reporting can be rather long depending on the case, how many devices, and what our findings are.
What role do warrants play in your work? For example, do you receive a search warrant along with a digital device and then it is part of your job to determine? Or do you usually just unlock the device and then it's up to law enforcement to decide what contents are allowed?
No, we always have to have a search warrant before we will even examine a device. We won't do anything with it. If we get a device without a search warrant, say they submit a device and say, oh, the search warrant, I'll email it to you or it's coming. We lock it in the evidence cabinet and don't do anything with it until we have the search warrant. We will take it and lock it away if we know it's coming on occasion, but generally we want it at the same time. And it's up to law enforcement to write that warrant. We don't write warrants here. They do the writing of the warrant and tell us what it is that we're searching for. That's up to them to determine what it is that we can look for on that device.
Does your work ever take you into the field?
Sometimes, yep. So, and I enjoy doing that. I was able to go along on a search warrant on a case. It was a fraud case. So just to go along as I guess you'd consider a subject matter expert to identify any digital devices in, this happened to be an apartment, and make sure that all the devices were collected and documented, and then bring them back to the lab here, do the examinations at the lab. If there was a big case in the state that required on-site examinations, we could do that as well. I've also done, sat in on a witness interview as a subject matter expert on that occasion as well. And super interesting. I enjoy doing that kind of stuff.
Do you work closely with the Madison police, other towns' police officers?
We do work with Madison Police when they bring stuff in, and also the Lake County Sheriff's Office, which is here in Madison. We work, I would say, most closely with the South Dakota Highway Patrol. They're our agency that submits the most to us right now. And also the Sioux Falls Police Department. We work closely with them as well. So, but we're expanding. We've gone, I don't know how many we originally started with a few, but now we're upwards of 30 agencies that we work with, both state and federal. So it's and growing all the time. We get new ones often.
What is the coolest thing you've done in your career or during school for forensics/cybersecurity?
Coolest thing. That's a good question. I don't know. I'm kind of stumped on that one. I don't know. For forensics. I mean, what I get to do every day is pretty dang cool. To be able to take a device and examine it and pull things out of it that you wouldn't think you could get out of it. And I actually had a computer that was submitted this week, Alexis, that's older than you are. So that's pretty cool, actually, too, to be able to get stuff out of there. I haven't analyzed that one yet, but that was kind of pretty interesting.
How many team members are typically working on each case?
Generally one. Usually whoever starts a case. Well, that's not necessarily true. Depending on the number of devices. If there's usually one person working on a single device at a time. But if we have a case, like the one case I had, I think we had 13 or more devices, then you'll split it up and some will take one and some will take the other. But right now it's, like I said, Special Agent Toby Russell is here in the lab with us. He works for South Dakota Division of Criminal Investigation. And so between he and I, we do the casework.
Do you know any websites/places students can go so they can practice challenges in forensics?
Oh gosh, not off the top of my head, but if you email me separately, I do. I just don't have it right here in front of me. So maybe at the end we can share my email address and I'd be happy to communicate that offline. Absolutely.
I swear I did not type this one. It says, is Alexis your favorite child since you have a common interest of cybersecurity?
That sounds like a question from Mary or one of your sisters. You know, I love all my kids. So I'm not going to answer that question. There is no right answer to that question. But it is cool to be able to share that with Alexis. But I would say there's things that I share with each of the kids that are different that are common interests. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Are you a member of any groups/communities in cybersecurity?
I am not yet, but that's WESIS. Yeah, I'm a member of WESIS. Absolutely. Yep. And then there's a cybersecurity council of South Dakota that we are both Katie and I are members of that. We're just getting that going. So, but nationally, no, not yet, other than those two.
What kind of certifications do you need for digital forensics?
Good question. I have certifications in Celebrite, which is our cell phone software that we use, and a couple different ones in there. Also in FTK, which it's the access data, which we use to do computer forensics. And there's other ones that I would like to do as well. Magnet Axiom's another product we need. I don't know what you would need. That would be kind of up to the agency that you work for. And it kind of depends on the product that you use. I have the certifications in the products that we use. And then I also have the CompTIA Security Plus. So I would say it depends, but I think the industry certifications are always helpful depending on what track, whether you want to go down the law enforcement track or if you're going to do forensics for a private company.
Did you know a lot of the skills before you started your current job? If not, how did you gain those skills?
So I would say some of the skills that are required for the job would be what you would consider not necessarily technical skills, you know, being able to be a strong writer, analytical skills, curiosity, you know, to be able to dig really strong into the case. So I obviously came into that. A lot of the skills I learned on the job through certification, and then honestly from Toby's mentorship. Toby is amazing and brilliant and just so helpful and always willing to share his knowledge. So I've learned so much from him on the job. So a combination of both, and obviously through master's program, through classes as well.
How do you balance school and family?
It's hard. I'm lucky. I did school when my kids were. That's why I did school when the kids were older, because I wanted to be able to. It was important to me to be with the kids when they were kids, and I knew that was time that you don't get back after they're grown up. And I knew I could go back to school later. I didn't know I would go back to school, but as far as having a career, I knew that was something that I could put on hold while I was raising my kids. And it was important for me to be there for them because I knew that time is short and you can't get that back. And that's not the way everybody needs to do it. That's what was best for me and for the family. But everybody finds their own way. It's what balance means for one person is not the same as what it means for somebody else. So it's, for me, that's the way I had to do it, was to be able to focus on the kids. And then when they got to the age that they are now, they don't need me as much, or act like they don't anyway. And then I could focus on doing what I wanted to do and needed to do.
Are there boring parts of your job?
I don't know if I'd say boring. I would say some of it is what I would call tedious. Sometimes when we're scrolling through upwards of 100,000 or 200,000 images, and it's the same image over and over and over again, or web history that's, not relevant to the case, we still have to look through that information and look through those images. I wouldn't call it boring. I would call it tedious.
What is the end goal for your career?
Good question. I would say it's the same as what I had coming in. I want to do something that's interesting and impactful, and I want to grow in the career and be able to be the go-to resource for the state, for law enforcement in the state of South Dakota for their digital evidence, and grow here so that when they think of somewhere they want to send their device, they think of us here at Dakota State, and be able to do good work and put out good work for them, and to be able to support what they do, because what they do is hard and very important.
Do you get to travel for your work?
Well, nobody gets to travel right now. Sometimes, yes, and I love being able to do that. I like to be able to see different places, and even just within our state, to be able to get out and meet the people that we work with and be able to talk to them and meet with people face to face. I love to be able to do that.
What advice would you give to the young people who are watching this right now?
Good question. I would say always try your best, no matter what you're doing. Always put forth your best effort, and do what you like doing, which not including video games, but no, I'm kidding. Always put forth your best effort and just figure out what it is that you like. And that's not always that easy. And know that will change. If you're in school now, don't think that that's what you have to do for the rest of your life. You're doing what you're doing right now. And if you get, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years down the road, and you want to do something else, you can do that. You can absolutely change and do something different.
That is wonderful, wonderful advice. And thank you, Alexis, for introducing your mom, Dr. Arica Kulm. And also, Arica, thank you so much for joining us for this week's conversation. I am launching a quick poll here so that everybody can help us just learn a little bit more about who's watching, and also what you think of the programs. But I do want to remind you to follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, be sure to check out or subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/CybHER. And you can also check our website for upcoming programs and future conversations. We are scheduling through May right now, so we've got some exciting things coming up in our lineup, so you won't want to miss those. And be sure to share all of the conversations with your friends. If you're joining us in this recorded conversation on our YouTube channel, we do appreciate it. All of our conversations are available by the following Friday on our YouTube channel, and we hope you'll watch all of them. But thank you, Arica. Thank you, Alexis. And we hope to see you all again next week. But have a good night.